The lottery ticket trembles between my fingers, the 6 numbers staring back at me like accusers. $39 million. My coffee cup slips, spilling dark liquid across the stack of bills spread across my kitchen table. The electric notice stamped, "Final warning." The credit card statement with its minimum payment circled in red. The rent increase letter I've read 14 times since yesterday. I laugh. A short, sharp sound that bounces off the walls of my studio apartment. The irony isn't lost on me that just 24 hours ago, these bills were mountains. Now they're nothing but paper soaked in coffee. This can't be real, I whisper to the empty room, but the numbers don't change. Last night's family dinner flashes through my mind. Colton's arm slung casually around my shoulder as he walked me to my car. Just until my client pays me next month, Lana. You're always so good with money. His practiced smile, the one that worked on our parents for 34 years, the one that had worked on me until now. I'd written the check knowing my account would nearly empty, watching him tuck it into his designer wallet without a thank you. But instead of joy, all I feel is suspicion. Who in my life truly cares about me versus my potential windfall? The question settles in my stomach like a stone. I reach for my phone, scroll past Mom's name, past Sierra's, past Colton's. I don't call any of them. Instead, I search lottery winner lawyer blind trust impress, call on the first reputable firm that appears. I need to protect myself, I tell the receptionist, my voice steadier than I feel. Friday evening plays back in my mind while I wait on hold. Standing in my boss's doorway as he explained why Jennifer was getting the promotion instead of me. She just has that leadership quality, he'd said, shuffling papers, not meeting my eyes. Never mind that I'd been doing both our jobs for months while she extended her lunch breaks. I'd stopped for gas afterward, the needle hovering below empty, my checking account balance almost matching. $5 for the ticket had been a bitter whim. A middle finger to a universe that seemed determined to keep me running in place. You'll figure it out, Lana. Mom had said last Thanksgiving when I mentioned my money concerns. You always do. Not an offer of help. Just an observation delivered between compliments about Sierra's new kitchen renovation and Colton's entrepreneurial spirit that had produced nothing but maxed out credit cards and loans from family members that never got repaid. My phone buzzes in my hand. Colton. Of course. Morning, sis, he says when I answer, his voice carrying that familiar note of practiced charm. Listen, about that investment opportunity I mentioned last night. You need more money. I finish for him. A beat of silence. Just a small loan. 2,000? My investor meeting got pushed back and I need to think about it, I say, the words unfamiliar in my mouth. Another pause, longer this time. I can almost see him blinking in surprise. Think about it? Since when do you need to think about helping family? Power shifts between us, subtle but unmistakable. For the first time in our relationship, I'm not immediately agreeing. The sensation is dizzying. Since now, I reply, my voice quiet but firm. Last Christmas surfaces in my memory, everyone tearing into their presents in Mom and Frank's living room. Sierra's genuine leather briefcase. Colton's expensive watch. Mom's diamond earrings from Frank. My gifts to them had strained my credit card. Their gifts to me, a practical planner, to organize your job search for a real career, bath salts, to relax, you seem stressed about money lately, and a budget cookbook. I hang up without saying goodbye, something I've never done before. My gaze drifts back to the lottery ticket, then to the leather-bound journal I bought myself for my birthday last month, empty until now. I open to the first page and write, the $39 million test, across the top. Below, I list every family member's name, every friend, every person who's ever made me feel small while taking what I offered. It's time to see who truly cares about Lana Briggs versus who's just been using her all along. The notification chime from my phone feels like an intrusion in my silent apartment. 3 days after discovering my lottery win, I've barely spoken to anyone, preferring the company of spreadsheets and legal websites to people who might notice something different about me. I tap the screen, expecting another promotional email. Instead, a group text appears, one I wasn't meant to see. Sierra accidentally included me in a conversation with Colton, Mom, and Frank. Colton, did Lana give you that money? She turned me down when I asked for the investment cash. Sierra, seriously? She always caves. What's gotten into her? Mom, she needs to learn responsibility. We've been enabling her too long. Frank, agreed. She always lands on her feet anyway. Remember when she got laid off 2 years ago and managed rent without asking us for help? My fingers tighten around the phone. 2 years ago. When I ate ramen for 6 weeks straight and sold my grandmother's pendant to make rent after being laid off from a job Frank had called just temporary anyway. Tears spring hot and fast, but dry just as quickly. Something hardens in my chest as I take screenshots, creating a new folder on my laptop labeled, "The $39 million Test." The first entry, proof my family has been coordinating their approach to me for years. An hour later, Miss Briggs? Attorney Marlene Weber extends her hand across her desk at the downtown coffee shop we've chosen for our meeting. Your blind trust paperwork is nearly complete. I slide my notebook across the table, showing her my methodical documentation of family loans never repaid, birthdays forgotten, and now, the group text. Most clients come in panicking or with wild spending plans, she says, eyebrows lifting as she flips through my organized notes. You're remarkably methodical. Always have been, I reply, straightening the sugar packets, someone left scattered across our table. Just never had anyone notice before. Marlene closes my notebook. I should warn you, lottery winners often discover relatives they never knew existed. What about the relatives they wish didn't exist? The question slips out before I can stop it. Her eyes soften with understanding. Those are often the most dangerous. I've seen families destroy winners, Miss Briggs. Completely destroy them. Code. She shares stories of winners bankrupted by siblings' failed businesses, parents' medical procedures, insurance would have covered, cousins' gambling debts. With each example, my test feels less like petty revenge and more like necessary self-preservation. Once you give money, the relationship changes forever. Marlene warns. They'll expect it again, resent you if you refuse, and you'll never know if they value you or your bank account. That night, I craft my layoff story with the precision of a surgeon. I need it to seem urgent enough to test who helps, but believable enough that no one searches for inconsistencies. I rehearse in front of my bathroom mirror, the slight catch in my voice when mentioning rent, the downward glance when discussing medical bills I can't cover. Sleep evades me as scenarios play through my mind. What if no one offers help? The confirmation of complete emotional abandonment feels like a stone in my stomach. What if they all rush to assist? Would that change my plans? The ceiling offers no answers as I stare upward, mentally arranging new bank accounts, calculating donation percentages, and planning how to maintain my modest appearance while millions sit in my blind trust. By morning, I've created a spreadsheet of exactly how much help I'll claim to need. $4,200 total. $2,100 for rent, $1, $800 for medical bills from an emergency room visit, and $300 for utilities. Specific numbers seem more authentic than round figures. The manila envelope from Marlene arrives by courier before noon. Inside, documents confirm my new identity as the sole trustee of the Wilson Foundation, named after my grandmother. I trace my fingers over the embossed letterhead, imagining her pride. That afternoon, I sign my first check, a $5,000 anonymous donation to the women's shelter downtown where I volunteered after college. The pen feels heavy in my hand as I address the envelope. As I seal it, a question surfaces that I can't easily dismiss. Am I becoming what I resent? Is testing people's loyalty itself a betrayal of trust? The methodical recording of failures, the careful construction of a false crisis, these feel like manipulation, the very thing I've resented in my family. But perhaps there's a difference between manipulation for personal gain and self-protection after years of being taken advantage of. Maybe this isn't a test of their loyalty to me, but a final confirmation of what I already know to be true. I place the donation in the mailbox, raising the red flag with a decisive click. Tomorrow, I'll begin telling my family about my supposed layoff. Tonight, I sleep more soundly than I have in years, wrapped in the unexpected comfort of having power over my own story for the first time. A week later, the vineyard glimmers in the California sunset as Mom raises her wine glass. Frank and I have some exciting news. She beams, her diamond bracelet catching the light. We've just purchased Sunny Ridge Vineyards. Applause erupts around the table while I force my lips into something resembling a smile. The pink slip tucked in my purse feels heavier now, a secret I've carried for 9 days. It's been our dream forever, Frank adds, his arm around Mom's shoulders, finally taking the plunge. I take a sip of water, noticing how Sierra's eyes narrow at my non-alcoholic choice. My sister's manicured fingers tap against her own wine glass, impatience building until she can no longer contain herself. Well, since we're sharing good news, Sierra announces, pulling out her phone. Look at our kitchen renovation. She swipes through photos of marble countertops and custom cabinetry that probably cost more than my annual salary. The contractor just finished yesterday. Worth every penny. Stunning, Mom gushes. Sierra slides her phone back into her designer purse. Which reminds me, Lana, are you free Tuesday and Thursday? Our nanny needs those days off, and Micah has swim lessons. Before I can answer, Colton clears his throat. Speaking of investments, he interrupts, leaning forward with that familiar gleam in his eyes. I've been developing something revolutionary, a subscription service for pet supplements with personalized formulations. I watch him work the table, describing profit margins and market gaps with practiced enthusiasm. The same pitch he's given for his meal delivery service, his wellness app, his organic skincare line, all funded by family investments that never materialized returns. I'm looking for initial stakeholders, he concludes, his gaze sweeping over each of us. Count us in, Frank says immediately. We should all discuss the family vacation, Mom interjects, passing the breadbasket. Cabo in October. We'll split the beach house 6 ways, of course. Equal shares for everyone. Equal shares. The words hang in the air as I calculate bus fare for tomorrow's commute. My car sits disabled in the apartment complex parking lot, the repair estimate more than my checking account balance. Sounds wonderful, I manage, though my throat tightens. Later that week, I stare at the notice taped to my door. 15% rent increase effective next month. My hands tremble as I unlock my apartment, flipping on the light in my studio that suddenly feels smaller than ever. I kick off my shoes, my feet aching from the 90-minute bus ride. 3 transfers. No one noticed when I mentioned my car trouble at dinner. No offers of rides or loans or even sympathy. Night after night, I sit at my kitchen table researching dividend stocks and mutual funds, tax shelters, and philanthropic trusts. To my family, I'm frantically submitting resumes. In reality, I'm planning how to manage wealth. They can't imagine wealth I can't tell them about because of their reaction to my supposed hardship. The silence of my apartment wraps around me like a physical weight. I check my phone, nothing from Mom, Sierra, or Colton. Not even a text asking if I'm okay. When my phone finally buzzes, I nearly drop it in surprise. Lana, it's Charlotte. From college? I was thinking about you today and wanted to check in. How are you really doing? The simple question breaks something loose inside me. When was the last time anyone asked that without following up with a request? 2 days later, I arrive at Mom and Frank's vineyard housewarming with my decision firmly made. The afternoon sun beats down on rows of grapevines as guests mill about with champagne flutes. I've been laid off, I announce when we're all seated for lunch under the pergola. Silence falls. Forks pause midair. I'm going to need help with rent and some medical bills this month. I continue. The words practiced, but still difficult. About $4,000 total. Mom exchanges glances with Frank. We just can't right now with the vineyard investment. You understand. Have you tried cutting back on luxuries? Sierra suggests, adjusting her diamond earrings. Coffee shops? Eating out? I glance down at my second-hand dress, wondering what luxuries she imagines I enjoy. I'll call you tomorrow. Colton promises quickly. But actually, this might be perfect timing for you to join my new venture. Ground floor opportunity. I open my leather journal calmly, writing each response while they speak. The power has shifted. I'm no longer waiting for their approval or help. I'm documenting their failure to provide either. When dessert arrives, I stand, gathering my purse. You're leaving? Mom asks, her voice tinged with practiced guilt. Frank made his famous tiramisu. I have a bus to catch, I reply simply. But we haven't even discussed the vacation deposits, Sierra protests. I walk away without answering, my back straight despite the weight I've carried for years. The next morning, my phone rings. Aunt Emma, Mom's older sister who lives 3 hours north. Your mother mentioned your situation, she says without preamble. Tell me what you need, not what they think you need. Her questions are specific, practical, not dismissive platitudes or vague sympathy. We meet at a diner halfway between our homes that day. Emma slides an envelope across the table. 2,500, she says quietly. It's what I can manage right now. I start to protest, but she raises her hand. My pull-out couch is always available if you need it. Back home, I finalize the paperwork for my nonprofit foundation, Table for One, dedicated to supporting middle-aged women living alone through financial emergencies. Over coffee with Charlotte 2 days later, I outline her role as outreach director, her eyes widening at the salary I propose. That evening, I send a group text to my family. Need to talk about my situation, my apartment, tomorrow at 7. Important. As I set down my phone, I feel something unfamiliar. Not anger or resentment or hurt, but freedom. The test is nearly complete, and the results are exactly what I suspected. Everyone has shown me exactly who they are. Now it's time to show them who I've become. The next day, the afternoon sun slants through my blinds as I arrange the final pieces of my chessboard. Bills spread across the coffee table, not haphazardly, but precisely positioned. The electric notice peeks from beneath my credit card statement. The rent increase letter sits front and center. My notebook rests on the side table where Sierra always places her purse. Inside, every rejection carefully documented in my neat handwriting. Every, not right now, and you should budget better, recorded with dates and exact phrasing. I open my laptop, position it on the kitchen counter facing the living room. The browser displays job listings I've supposedly been pursuing. The confirmation email from Charlotte about my new position as executive director sits minimized but visible in the corner, technically true, though no one will understand its significance yet. You've got this, I whisper to myself, smoothing my simple blue button-down shirt. Not too polished, I can't appear suddenly prosperous, but clean, presentable, a woman with renewed purpose. The doorbell rings precisely at 7 that evening. I count to 10 before answering. Lana? Mom bustles in first, Frank trailing behind. We brought sandwiches. I figured you might not have much in the fridge. Thanks. I accept the bag with a small smile. That was thoughtful. Sierra arrives with her husband Tom. Colton straggles in last, 20 minutes late as usual, offering no excuse. I watch their eyes scan my apartment, the subtle relief washing over their faces when they spot the job listings on my laptop. The tension in Mom's shoulders eases. Frank's smile becomes less forced. The collective sigh is nearly audible. I won't be asking them for money today. So, I say once everyone settles, I wanted to let you all know that things have turned around for me. I've accepted a new position with significantly better pay. Oh, honey, Mom claps her hands. That's wonderful news. Thank God, Sierra mutters, not quite under her breath. Colton leans forward, suddenly interested. That's great timing, sis. About that investment opportunity we discussed. Now that you're back on your feet? Mom interjects. You'll be able to contribute to the family vacation we're planning for fall. We've already reserved 3 cabins at Lake Tahoe. Sierra nods enthusiastically. And my nanny's on vacation next week. I was going to ask if you could watch the kids for a few days. You know, now that you're not job hunting. I reach for my notebook, opening it casually. Funny thing about asking for help, I say, my voice steady. When I needed $800 for rent last month, you said, and I quote, I find the page, running my finger down to the entry. We just invested everything in the vineyard. You understand financial priorities, Lana. The room goes silent. And Sierra, I continue, turning the page, when I asked if I could borrow your car while mine was in the shop. You said you couldn't risk the car seats getting messed up. Yet now you want me to watch your children for an entire week? You're keeping a record of what we say? Colton's face flushes. That's weird, Lana. No weirder than you asking me for $2,000 the morning after I told you I was laid off. I meet his eyes directly, which is right here, with the date and time of the call. Their expressions transform like a slideshow relief to confusion to defensiveness. Sierra's nervous laugh breaks the silence. Mom's hand flutters to her throat. As I watch their expressions shift from relief to confusion to defensiveness, I wonder, should I reveal everything now and watch their world collapse? Or was the knowledge that I'd seen their true colors enough? The doorbell chimes again. That must be Aunt Emma, I say, grateful for the interruption. She's running late. Emma bustles in, her arms full. Sorry I'm behind schedule. Traffic was awful coming from Roseville. She hands me a small gift bag. Just a little something for your fresh start, honey. Inside is a delicate ceramic planter with a small jade plant. Plants symbolize new beginnings, she whispers, squeezing my shoulder. My phone rings, Charlotte's perfect timing exactly as planned. Excuse me, I say, stepping toward the kitchen. This might be about the new position. I keep my voice just loud enough for everyone to hear. Yes, Charlotte. The opportunity sounds perfect. Community outreach is exactly what I've wanted to focus on. Yes, I can start Monday. When I return to the living room, the contrast couldn't be more stark. Emma sits comfortably, chatting with Frank about gardening. The others perch awkwardly, exchanging glances. Before we go any further, I say, settling back into my chair, I want to be clear about something. Going forward, I won't be discussing my finances with anyone except my financial advisor. No loans, no investments, no contributions to family expenses beyond what I choose to give. Mom's smile tightens. We were just trying to teach you independence, Lana. That's what family does. Is it? I flip through several pages of my notebook. Because when Colton needed bail money last year, you didn't teach him independence. You paid it immediately. Sierra laughs nervously. You're making it sound like we've been conspiring against you or something. Haven't you? I hold up my phone, displaying the group text I'd discovered. The one where they discussed how I always land on my feet and need to learn responsibility. Mom shifts uncomfortably. That's not what we meant. I've made an important decision about my future, I interrupt, my voice stronger than it's ever been in their presence. One that will affect all of us. Frank clears his throat. What kind of decision? I close my notebook, feeling the weight of 39 million reasons to change my life. But that revelation could wait for another day. Today was about something more valuable than money. I've decided to value myself the way I've always valued all of you. I say simply. And I think that's going to surprise everyone. Dad and Claudia arrive 40 minutes late, just missing the uncomfortable silence that followed my quiet documentation of Sierra's refusal to help. Dad's cologne announces his presence before the doorbell rings, the same expensive scent he's worn since I was a child, always promising luxury just beyond reach. There's our Lana. He booms, striding into my apartment like he's entering a boardroom. Claudia follows 3 steps behind, her smile professionally pleasant, eyes sweeping across my modest space. Dad doesn't bother with small talk. So, you're employed again? Good timing. Colton's business is really taking off, just needs that initial investment. Perfect opportunity now that you're back on your feet. The room shifts. Mom's eyes dart to Sierra, who suddenly finds her manicure fascinating. Colton straightens, nodding with rehearsed enthusiasm. Dad, I just started this job, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. And? Cam? His eyebrows rise as if I've missed something obvious. Family comes first, Lana. Always has. Mom steps in, hand on my arm. Family helps family, she says, the words practiced. We've always been there for you. I don't pull away from her touch, but I don't lean into it either. Something has solidified inside me like cement drying, becoming immovable. Your attitude lately, Dad shakes his head, settling into my armchair without invitation. That's why we've been distant. You've changed. The word attitude ignites something in my chest. I reach for the leather notebook beside me, its pages filled with years of disappointments I've carefully recorded. Since we're discussing family support, I say, opening to a marked page, let me share what being there for me looked like when I needed $4,200 for rent and medical bills. I turn to the first entry. Mom, when I called about my rent increase and doctor's bills, you said, and I quote, we just can't right now with the vineyard investment. You understand. Then you change the subject to Sierra's children. Mom's mouth opens, closes. I didn't mean... Sierra, I continue, my finger tracing her name. You suggested I cut back on luxuries while wearing new diamond earrings. Then you asked if I could watch the kids 3 days that week since your nanny had family visiting. Sierra's face flushes. That's completely out of context. Colton, you promised to call me back about a loan, then texted 3 hours later asking if I could review your business proposal instead. I flipped the page. Dad, when I finally reached you, you said my financial problems were character building and suggested I take a second job like you did back in the day. The room fills with the sound of uncomfortable shifting. My voice has transformed steady, confident, no longer seeking their approval. The tremor that once lived in my throat when confronting family has vanished. The only person who offered help without conditions was Emma. She didn't lecture me about budgeting or suggest I wasn't trying hard enough. She simply asked what I needed and then provided it. I closed the notebook gently. I've learned who my family truly is, and it's not defined by blood. My apartment, usually cramped with 5 visitors, suddenly feels spacious as they shift uncomfortably on my furniture. The power in the room has realigned. For the first time, I'm not the one feeling small. I place the notebook on the coffee table, centered like an exhibit. It contains not just their recent dismissals but years of broken promises, conditional love, and subtle put-downs. Each entry meticulously dated, each comment recorded verbatim. You've been keeping score? Colton's voice cracks with defensive outrage. That's sick, Lana. No, I reply, meeting his gaze. I've been keeping records. There's a difference. Mom's eyes fill with tears, the ones she's always used to redirect uncomfortable conversations. She stands, arms outstretched for a hug I've never before refused. This time, I step back, my hand raised slightly between us. Please don't, I say, gentle but firm. Sweetheart, we never meant to hurt you, she whispers. I believe you, I say, and I do. You never thought about hurting me, because you never really thought about me at all. I remain standing while they stay seated, a reversal of family dynamics so complete it feels momentous. For once, I'm looking down at them instead of up and seeing them clearly. I don't need your money. I tell them, my voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the room. I never did. I needed your support, which costs nothing but means everything. The silence that follows feels physical, like something you could touch. They exchange glances, a family suddenly unsure of their script now that I've stopped following mine. The safety net they've taken for granted, reliable Lana, who always says yes, who never makes waves, has disappeared. Dad opens his mouth, closes it. Mom dabs at tears that haven't fallen. Sierra stares at her hands. Colton's jaw works silently. I wonder if Aunt Emma will ever learn about my lottery win. The thought floats through my mind as I walk toward my door and open it wide. I think we're done for today, I say, the words both a statement and a question about our future. One by one, they file past me, their confusion almost palpable. When the last one crosses the threshold, I close the door behind them gently, but with unmistakable finality. The grant approval forms spread across my desk like fallen autumn leaves. 6 months ago, these papers would have intimidated me. Now, I sign each one with confident strokes, no longer second-guessing every decision. My office at Table for One nonprofit gleams with morning light. Not extravagant, just mine. The antique wooden desk I chose myself. The wall color I selected without texting photos for family approval. Simple freedoms that once seemed impossible. I pause at the framed photograph of Charlotte and me flanking Marjorie, our first grant recipient. The 73-year-old widow's eyes sparkle with the same determination I now recognize in my mirror reflection. She's opened a small bookshop with our funding, building her third act after losing everything to medical debt. Your 10 o'clock is here, Charlotte calls, poking her head through my doorway. I slide the signed approvals into their folder, no longer the assistant but the decision-maker. The mail cart arrives before my meeting. Among the usual business correspondence sits a pastel envelope, Sierra's handwriting. Inside, an invitation to her twin's birthday party next weekend. At the bottom, a handwritten note. No gifts necessary. I run my thumb across the embossed cardstock, remembering last year's party when I'd maxed out a credit card buying presents I couldn't afford, while Sierra complained they already had too many toys. Instead of the familiar knot of obligation tightening in my chest, I reach for a correspondence card. Regretfully unable to attend, I write, adding warm wishes without explanation or apology. After sealing the envelope, I open my foundation's portal and authorize an anonymous deposit of $10,000 into each child's college fund. Not out of guilt, but because I can now give freely when it's my choice. Ready for dinner? Aunt Emma stands in my doorway later that evening, her practical beige cardigan, a familiar comfort in my new world. The restaurant host leads us to the best table, a corner booth with plush crimson upholstery overlooking the river. Emma's eyes widen at the crystal glasses, the pristine white tablecloths. This is too expensive, she whispers, reaching for her sensible purse. I cover her weathered hand with mine. I've been meaning to tell you something. As the words flow easily now, the lottery, the blind trust, the test. When I finish, Emma simply nods, buttering a piece of bread. Money doesn't change people, she says. It reveals them. 2 days later, the morning sunshine bathes Emma's new front yard in golden light as I sign the final paperwork transferring ownership. The modest one-story cottage near Santa Rosa suits her, no more struggling with steep stairs on arthritic knees, no more isolation in that rural farmhouse too far from medical care. All yours, I say, handing her the pen. Inside, travel brochures litter her coffee table. Italy, New Zealand, Scotland, places we've both dreamed of visiting. On the sideboard rests my journal, repurposed now. The title Gratitude Notes replaces the $39 million test, its pages filling with moments of genuine connection rather than evidence of betrayal. Emma hands me a pair of gardening gloves. The south corner gets good light, she says, leading me to a freshly tilled patch of soil. I thought we could plant something together. We kneel side by side, pressing seeds into dark earth. My fingers work the soil, something real, something with roots and room to grow. Have you spoken to them? Emma asks, not needing to specify who. As I pressed the seeds into the soil beside the only family member who'd proven true, I wondered, is forgiveness necessary for moving forward, or is it enough to simply close certain chapters with understanding? What would you do with the family who failed the test when you needed them most? I don't answer immediately, concentrating instead on the perfect depth for each seed. Some things need time and proper conditions before they can flourish.